Commander Peter Walsh stood at the main window of Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the sunrise over the Rocky Mountains. The morning light painted the snow-capped peaks in shades of gold and pink. It might be the last peaceful sunrise humanity would see. "Commander," his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "They're here." Walsh took a deep breath and straightened his uniform. The aliens had arrived exactly when they said they would, down to the second. That level of precision should have been their first warning. In the command center, dozens of screens showed the same image. A fleet of geometric ships, each one a perfect diamond shape, hanging in space just beyond the moon's orbit. Their silver surfaces reflected sunlight in calculated patterns that hurt the eyes if you looked too long. "Status report," Walsh ordered, his voice calm despite the tension in the room. Lieutenant Alice Bradford looked up from her station. 37 ships in total, sir, all in perfect formation. They're beautiful in a scary way, like looking at a spider's web. The main screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Mary Collins at the United Nations. Her gray suit and steady gaze projected confidence, but Walsh knew her well enough to see the worry in her eyes. "The Galactic Space Council representatives are ready to begin talks," she announced. "They're transmitting now." The image changed to show 3 alien faces. The one in the center, clearly the leader, had skin that looked like polished blue crystal and eyes that moved with mechanical precision. When it spoke, its words came through the translator in a flat, measured tone. "We are the Tylarians, speaking for the Galactic Space Council. Your species has been observed and found wanting. You will submit to Council authority or face immediate extinction." Walsh felt the temperature in the room drop. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to go. Where were the greetings? The cultural exchanges? The diplomatic niceties? Ambassador Collins kept her composure. "We welcome the opportunity for dialogue with the Galactic Space Council. Earth is home to many nations and cultures. We would need time to." "Time is inefficient," the Tylarian interrupted. "You have one standard rotation of your planet to submit. Your species engages in warfare that defies logic. Your tactics are chaotic. Your strategies lack mathematical precision. This cannot be allowed to continue." Walsh stepped forward. "With respect, our methods have helped us survive and thrive. We've overcome countless challenges." "Your methods are primitive," another alien cut in. This one had green, scale-like skin. "We have analyzed your military history. You rely on deception, guerrilla tactics, psychological warfare. These are not civilized approaches to combat." Collins tried again. "Perhaps we could learn from each other, share our different perspectives." "There is nothing to learn from chaos," the third alien stated. Its red eyes glowed with what seemed like contempt. "War has rules, equations, perfect formations. Your species breaks these natural laws." Walsh watched as humanity's first diplomatic contact with alien life went from bad to worse. The aliens spoke of warfare as if it were a dance with fixed steps. They talked about combat like it was a math problem with only one right answer. In the next few hours, Earth's leaders gathered virtually to discuss the ultimatum. Walsh sat in on the emergency meetings, listening as presidents, prime ministers, and generals tried to make sense of the situation. "They're insane," the Chinese military commander said. "War isn't about following rules. It's about winning." "But why do they care how we fight?" asked the Brazilian president. "We've never threatened them." Walsh had a theory, but it was Ambassador Collins who spoke it aloud. "They're afraid," she said, "not of our technology or our weapons, but of our unpredictability. We don't fight the way they think we should, and that terrifies them." As the deadline approached, Earth's response took shape. They would not submit. How could they? These aliens wanted to change the very nature of human combat, to force humanity into their rigid box of acceptable warfare. Walsh spent the final hours reviewing Earth's defenses. The alien ships were far advanced, but they moved in perfect, predictable patterns. Maybe that was something they could use. "Sir," Bradford called out, "I've been analyzing their formations. Everything they do follows strict geometric principles. It's like they're playing chess, but they can only move pieces in specific patterns." Walsh nodded. "And what happens in chess when someone doesn't play by the expected rules? The whole strategy falls apart." Bradford's eyes lit up with understanding. With 30 minutes left until the deadline, Walsh made his way to the broadcast center. Earth would give its answer to the Galactic Space Council, but not in the way they expected. Ambassador Collins stood before the cameras, her silver hair neat, her expression determined. But instead of a formal response, she began telling stories. She spoke of the Battle of Thermopylae, where few were held against many. She talked about the midnight ride of Paul Revere, about resistance fighters in occupied cities, about soldiers who won battles by breaking every rule in the book. The aliens tried to interrupt, their mechanical voices growing more agitated. "This is not a proper response format." Collins continued, her voice growing stronger. "You say our warfare lacks logic. Let me tell you about a battle won with cardboard tanks, about ships that escaped detection by disguising themselves as islands, about victories achieved not through perfect formations, but through creativity, courage, and the unexpected." When the deadline arrived, the alien ships moved into attack position. Every vessel aligned with mathematical precision. Walsh watched them on the screens and smiled. The aliens thought human warfare was chaos, but they hadn't seen anything yet. "All units," he ordered, "initiate Defense Plan Delta." Around the world, military forces moved into completely random patterns. Missile sites shifted positions based on dice rolls. Fighter pilots were given permission to improvise. Every prediction the aliens had made about Earth's defensive strategies was about to be proven wrong. The first shots were fired at exactly 800 hours. The alien ships moved exactly as their battle algorithms dictated they should. But Earth's forces weren't playing by their rules. As the largest alien vessel fired its first shot, Walsh thought about what these beings had said about human warfare being illogical. They weren't wrong. Human warfare was messy, unpredictable, and often made no sense at all. And that was exactly why it worked. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weakness, its chaos, would prove to be its greatest strength. Bradford's voice cut through his thoughts. "Sir, they're broadcasting again." The Xylarian leader appeared on screen, its crystalline features showing what might have been the first emotion Walsh had seen from them: confusion. "Your defensive formations are incorrect," it stated. "You cannot win a battle without proper geometric alignment. This is not how war is conducted." Walsh stepped forward, allowing himself a small smile. "No," he agreed. "This is how humans conduct war. And you're about to learn why that scares you so much." Above the Earth, the perfect formations of alien ships faced the apparently random arrangements of human defenders. Two approaches to warfare were about to clash, and only one would survive. The real question was, could the logical minds of the Galactic Space Council handle what was coming? Because Earth was about to show them that in real war, the only rule that matters is survival. Lieutenant Alice Bradford hadn't slept in 36 hours, but her mind was sharper than ever. She stood in the underground war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's defensive positions. None of them followed any pattern the aliens could recognize. "Show me the Chaos Protocol results again," she said to her team. The main screen lit up with data streams. Each one represented a different military unit following completely random orders generated by rolling dice. Fighter squadrons changed direction based on playing card draws. Tank divisions moved according to coin flips. "Ma'am," said Sergeant Danny Miller, pointing to a new alert. "The aliens are trying to predict our next moves. Their computers keep crashing." Bradford allowed herself a small smile. The aliens' mighty prediction engines couldn't handle true randomness. They kept looking for patterns that didn't exist. Above them, the battle had been raging for 12 hours. The alien ships still maintained their perfect diamond formations, but those formations were starting to cost them. Every time they lined up for a precise geometric attack pattern, Earth's forces had already scattered in 40 different directions. Commander Walsh entered the room, his uniform wrinkled from hours of continuous wear. "Lieutenant, tell me you have good news." "Better than good, sir." Bradford brought up a new display. "We're using weather patterns now. The Chinese fleet is hiding in a storm system. The aliens can't understand why we'd use lightning to mask our movements. They keep trying to calculate lightning strikes." Walsh nodded. "They think nature follows strict rules too." "That's their second mistake." "What was their first?" "Thinking they could predict humans." A new alarm sounded. The alien fleet was beginning another attack run. Their ships formed a perfect octagon, probably following some complex mathematical formula. But this time, Earth was ready. "Launch Operation Wildcard," Walsh ordered. Bradford typed in the command codes. Across the globe, military units began acting on sealed orders they'd received hours ago. Each unit had different orders. None of them knew what the others were doing. It was controlled chaos at its finest. The alien ships fired their weapons in perfect synchronization. Their energy beams cut through space in precise geometric patterns, beautiful, deadly, and completely predictable. But Earth's forces weren't there anymore. "Look at this," Bradford said, pointing to a tactical display. The Indian Air Force used old paper maps to plan their movements. The alien sensors can't figure out why they're not following GPS coordinates. In orbit, a squadron of Earth fighters emerged from behind a cluster of satellites. They'd shut down all their computers and were flying on pure instinct. The alien ships, programmed to track electronic signatures, didn't notice them until it was too late. "Primitive tactics," Walsh said with pride, "just like they accused us of using." Bradford watched as the fighter pilots executed maneuvers that broke every rule in the book. They flew in zigzag patterns based on their favorite songs. They timed their attacks to match random number sequences. One pilot was flying based on his daughter's dance recital routine. The aliens' response came through their communications channel. "Your attack formations are incorrect. You cannot achieve victory through chaos." "Watch us," Bradford muttered. On another screen, the Brazilian Navy was creating false signals by bouncing radio waves off the ocean in random patterns. The alien ships kept turning to face phantom threats, their perfect formation starting to show gaps. "They really don't understand, do they?" Miller asked. "They can't grasp why we're fighting this way." Bradford shook her head. "They believe war is pure mathematics, but humans learned a long time ago that war is also art. It's creativity. It's doing the last thing your enemy expects." A new message arrived from Ambassador Collins at the UN. The other members of the Galactic Space Council were watching the battle with growing concern. Some were already questioning the Tylarians' leadership. "Send them this," Walsh ordered, bringing up a historical database. "Show them Earth's military history. All of it. Every crazy tactic that worked. Every battle won by thinking outside the box." Bradford started the data transfer. The aliens would see stories of horses against tanks, of fishing boats evacuating armies, of soldiers using inflatable tanks to fool enemy intelligence, of victories won through sheer human stubbornness and creativity. "Sir," Miller called out, "the alien ships, they're starting to break formation." On the main display, the perfect geometric patterns were failing. Some alien ships were trying to adjust to human movements, while others stuck to their programmed responses. Their fleet looked like a beautiful crystal starting to crack. "They're fighting each other," Bradford realized. "Some want to adapt, others want to stick to their rules." Walsh smiled. "And that's their third mistake. They thought unity meant uniformity." The battle continued above Earth, but something had changed. The alien ships' movements were becoming hesitant. Their perfect formations took longer to form. Their attacks lost their mathematical precision. Bradford pulled up a new analysis. "Sir, I think some of the alien ships are trying to copy our randomness, but they're doing it mathematically. They're using chaos theory algorithms." "In other words," Walsh said, They're trying to plan spontaneity. Yes, sir. It's not working very well for them. Around the world, humanity's forces pressed their advantage. They used terrain in ways the aliens never considered. They mixed old tactics with new technology. A squadron of modern fighters flew in formation with propeller planes. Nuclear submarines changed depth based on baseball scores. "We're getting another message from their fleet," Miller announced. The alien commander appeared on screen. Its crystalline features showed clear signs of stress, cracks in its perfect surface. "Your species," it said, "is corrupting the pure mathematics of warfare. This cannot be allowed." "Mathematics is a tool," Bradford responded before she could stop herself. "Not a rulebook." Walsh nodded approvingly. "Send them the data from Operation Wildcard. Let them try to find the pattern." As Bradford transmitted the information, she watched the alien ship's movements become even more erratic. Their computers were trying to analyze the completely random decisions of thousands of human commanders, all acting independently. "Sir," she said, "I think we're about to see something interesting." On the main screen, the alien fleet's formation finally shattered completely. Some ships maintained their geometric patterns. Others broke away, trying new movements. A few simply stopped, their commanders apparently unable to cope with the situation. "They're experiencing tactical culture shock," Walsh observed. "Their entire understanding of warfare is being proven wrong." Bradford studied the data flowing across her screens. Earth's forces were using everything from ancient military texts to children's games to determine their movements. Every unit fought differently. Every attack came from an unexpected angle. The aliens had wanted to eliminate chaos from warfare. Instead, they were drowning in it. "New transmission from Ambassador Collins," Miller reported. 3 more Council species have requested private communication channels with Earth. They want to know how we do this." Walsh looked at Bradford. "Lieutenant, prepare a response package. Show them everything. The rolled dice, the weather patterns, the random number generators. Show them why humanity's primitive approach to warfare isn't primitive at all." Bradford began compiling the data, adding in historical examples and current battle footage. She included the tactical chaos of Earth's greatest victories and the strategic randomness that was winning this war. Above them, the battle continued. But now the aliens were fighting not just Earth's forces, but their own rigid understanding of how war should be fought. Their perfect formations had become their greatest weakness. Their mathematical precision had become a liability. Humanity's greatest strength had turned out to be exactly what the Galactic Space Council feared: the ability to embrace chaos, to thrive in uncertainty, and to break every rule ever written about how to fight a war. Bradford looked at her random number generators and smiled. Sometimes the best pattern was no pattern at all. Captain John Martinez stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Challenger, watching smoke pour from his ship's smoke generators. The artificial clouds spread through space, defying the alien sensors in ways their advanced technology couldn't understand. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the aliens are demanding we stop using visual obstruction techniques. They say it's not proper warfare." Martinez laughed. "Tell them war isn't proper. That's the point." The Challenger led a fleet of 50 Earth ships, all releasing different types of interference. Some launched old-fashioned chaff, simple metal strips that confuse radar. Others used electronic jamming signals based on pop music rhythms. One ship was broadcasting cooking recipes on all frequencies just to add to the confusion. "Multiple alien ships approaching," reported Susan Kelly, his tactical officer. "They're trying to form a perfect triangle formation, but our smoke is making them drift out of position." Through the view screen, Martins watched the alien vessels struggle. Their sensors, designed to detect energy signatures and calculate precise trajectories, were being fooled by the most basic tricks in human history. Back on Earth, Laura Chen was about to make things even worse for them. Her Project Pandora was ready. "Launch the package," Martins ordered. Across Earth's defensive line, thousands of small objects shot into space. Some were weapons, some were decoys, Some were empty boxes with random blinking lights. Even Earth's forces didn't know which was which. The alien response was immediate. Your deployment lacks tactical coherence. You cannot achieve victory through random chance. Martinez opened a channel to reply. Ever hear of loading the dice? Project Pandora was Laura Chen's masterpiece. She had studied how casino games fooled gambling machines, how street magicians tricked observers, and how nature created patterns that looked random but weren't. Then she turned it all into a weapon. The alien ships tried to target the threats. Their computers calculated perfect firing solutions, which meant nothing when they couldn't tell real targets from fake ones. "Sir," Kelly reported with a grin, "they're shooting at our empty boxes." Martinez nodded. "How's the rest of the fleet doing?" "The Japanese ships are moving in patterns based on flower arrangements. The Russian fleet is using old submarine tactics in space. And the African Union ships," she paused. "Sir, I think they're basing their movements on elephant migration patterns." "Is it working?" "The aliens can't predict any of it. Their formation is falling apart." On his tactical display, Martinez watched Earth's forces press their advantage. The aliens' perfect triangle had become a mess of individual ships, each trying to deal with threats they couldn't understand. A new alert sounded. The Kylarian flagship was approaching, its crystalline surface reflecting the light from Earth. It was massive, beautiful, and completely predictable. "They're broadcasting, sir," the communications officer said. "Full spectrum." The alien commander's voice filled the bridge. "Your species must be stopped. You bring disorder to the mathematical perfection of combat. Your chaos threatens the very foundations of civilized warfare." Martinez signaled Laura Chen on Earth. "Ready for Phase 2. Chen's voice came back confident. "Project Pandora. Phase 2. Ready to deploy. We're about to show them real chaos." At her signal, Earth's ships started changing their emission signatures randomly. Warships pretended to be cargo vessels. Fighters mimicked space debris. The Challenger itself was now broadcasting as 50 different types of ships, all at once. The alien sensors couldn't cope. Their rigid programming tried to classify each signal according to strict rules, but the rules no longer applied. "Sir," Kelly reported, "3 alien ships have completely shut down. I think we broke their tactical computers." Martinez watched as more alien vessels began to show signs of confusion. Some fired at shadows. Others moved in circles, unable to find valid targets in the sea of false signals. Getting a message from Lieutenant Bradford on Earth, the communications officer announced, "The alien fleet's coordination is breaking down. Different ships are following different protocols. They're starting to fire at each other." The massive alien flagship moved closer, its weapons charging. But it was alone now. Its perfect formation had scattered, its mathematical precision rendered useless by human unpredictability. "Sir," Kelly said urgently, "the flagship is powering up its main weapon. Energy readings are off the scale." Martinez studied his tactical display. The alien ship was lined up for a perfect shot. Exactly what Laura Chen had predicted they would do. "Spring the trap," he ordered. All at once, Earth's ships killed their engines. They started drifting, tumbling randomly through space. The alien flagship's targeting computers tried to adjust, trying to find the pattern in their movement. There was no pattern. The flagship fired its weapon, a beam of pure energy that could have vaporized the entire fleet. But the beam passed harmlessly through empty space. Earth's ships, moving entirely on momentum, had drifted out of its path. "They missed," Kelly shouted. "A perfect shot, and they missed." Martinez opened a channel to the alien flagship. "You want to know why humans are dangerous? We know that perfect isn't always better. Sometimes you need to embrace the chaos." The alien commander's response was almost emotional. "This is not war. War has rules, principles, mathematical certainty." "No," Martinez replied. "That's just how you fight wars. We have our own way." Around them, the battle had transformed. The alien fleet's perfect formations were gone, replaced by individual ships fighting alone. Some tried to adapt, copying Earth's random tactics. Others seemed frozen, unable to act without precise instructions. Laura Chen's voice came through the command channel. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations from their flagship. I think their main computer is trying to calculate every possible random outcome at once." Martinez watched as the beautiful alien ship began to show signs of stress. Its crystalline surface cracked as its computers overheated, trying to solve an impossible problem. "They still don't get it," he said quietly. "They think they can calculate randomness." The flagship's lights flickered. Its perfect geometry began to warp as its systems failed one by one. The mighty vessel, designed for mathematical warfare, was being defeated not by Earth's weapons, but by its own inability to handle chaos. "Sir," Kelly reported, "other alien ships are powering down their weapons. I think they're surrendering." Martinez looked at his tactical display. Earth's smoke clouds still drifted through space, mixing with the decoys and false signals from Project Pandora. The elegant alien formation had been reduced to scattered ships, their perfect precision broken by human unpredictability. "Send to all Earth forces," he ordered. "Maintain random movement patterns. Keep them guessing." As he watched the alien flagship drift powerless in space, Martinez thought about what they had really accomplished. They hadn't just defeated a superior force. They had proven that sometimes the best strategy was having no strategy at all. The aliens had tried to impose order on the chaos of war. Instead, they had learned why humans had always embraced that chaos. Because in the end, the most dangerous enemy isn't the one who follows all the rules. It's the one who knows when to break them. High Counselor Zix-427 of the Axilarians stared at the battle reports with growing horror. The perfect crystalline walls of the council chamber reflected his distress, their surfaces showing tiny cracks, a sign of extreme emotional disturbance among his species. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice crackling with static. "Their tactics defy all logical analysis." Around the circular chamber, representatives from other council species showed similar signs of distress. The Verdani delegates' scales had turned pale green. The mechanics representatives' gears were grinding loudly. The humans, reported Sub-Commander Lex 891, are now using something they call baseball scores to determine their fleet movements. "Our tactical computers cannot find any mathematical pattern in this baseball." Zix-427 felt more cracks appear in his crystalline form. How could any species fight a war based on a game? It made no sense. War was supposed to follow clear rules, precise formations, perfect geometry. "Show me their latest battle footage," he ordered. The holographic display in the center of the chamber came to life. It showed Earth's ships moving in completely random patterns. Some spun like falling leaves. Others zigzagged based on ancient dance steps. One fleet was copying the flight patterns of Earth insects called butterflies. "Their main weapon," Lex 891 continued, "appears to be unpredictability itself." The Verdani delegate, Suskith, slithered forward. "My scientists have been studying human military history. It's disturbing. They have won wars using inflatable tanks. They have defeated larger forces by making loud noises at night. They once won a battle by pretending to be angry gods." More cracks appeared in Zix-427's surface. Each new revelation about human warfare felt like a personal attack on everything he believed. "Surely," he said, "they must have some underlying system, some basic principles they follow." "Yes," replied Suskith. "Their principle appears to be, do whatever the enemy least expects." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Several junior council members had to be let out, their logical circuits overloading. A new alert sounded. On the main display, Earth's forces were launching another attack. This time, they were using something called Project Pandora. The council watched in horror as thousands of objects filled space, some real, some fake, all moving in patterns that made no mathematical sense. "High Counselor," called out the mechanics representative. 3 more of our fleets have shut down. Their tactical computers have crashed trying to predict human movements. Zix 427 felt his crystalline form vibrate with stress. How had this happened? The Council had ruled space for 10,000 years. Their perfect formations and mathematical combat algorithms had never failed before. We are receiving requests, Lex 891 reported reluctantly, from several member species. They want to open private diplomatic channels with Earth. Traitors. Zix 427's voice shattered like breaking glass. They would abandon 10,000 years of perfect warfare for chaos. Sir, Siskith said carefully, perhaps we should consider that our way is not the only way. The High Counselor turned to face the Verdani delegate, his surface now covered in stress fractures. You suggest we accept their primitive methods, their random tactics, their complete disregard for proper combat geometry. I suggest, Siskith replied, that any species that can defeat our perfect formations with smoke and mirrors might have something to teach us. On the display, more council ships were falling into confusion. Some had begun copying human tactics, their movements becoming erratic and unpredictable. Others remained in perfect formation, making them easy targets for Earth's chaotic attacks. New report from the front, Lex 891 announced. The humans are now coordinating their attacks using something called rock, paper, scissors. Our computers are trying to understand how a child's game can determine military strategy. The mechanics representative's gears ground to a halt. This defies all logic. War cannot be fought this way. Yet, Siskith observed, they are winning. Zix 427 watched as more of his perfect fleet fell into disarray. Ships that had fought in perfect formation for centuries were now moving randomly, desperately trying to survive against Earth's unpredictable attacks. A message appeared from Ambassador Collins of Earth. Her calm face filled the council chamber's screens. Members of the Galactic Space Council, she said, we notice you're having some trouble understanding our tactics. Would you like us to explain why they work? Several council members leaned forward eagerly, but Zix 427 cut off the transmission. We do not need lessons in warfare from primitives. Sir, Lex 891 said quietly, 7 more member species have requested Earth's tactical data. They say our way of war is outdated. The High Counselor's surface cracked further. Outdated? How could perfect geometric formations and precise mathematical calculations be outdated? Look at this, Siskith said, bringing up a new display. Human military academies teach their officers to think creatively, to improvise, to surprise the enemy. They have textbooks about breaking rules. The council chamber descended into chaos as more reports arrived. Earth's forces were using different tactics for each battle. No attack was ever the same. They had turned unpredictability into an art form. High Counselor, Lex 891 reported, the humans are broadcasting their military history to all council ships. Our crews are. They're fascinated. They're learning about something called guerrilla warfare. Zix 427 felt his logical mind struggling to cope. Everything he knew about warfare was being proven wrong. The perfect formations he had relied on for centuries were now a weakness, not a strength. Sir, Siskith said gently, perhaps it's time to consider peace talks, before the humans teach our entire fleet how to be unpredictable. The High Counselor looked at the battle display one last time. Earth's ships danced through space like leaves in the wind, while his once perfect fleet tried helplessly to predict their movements. Very well, he said, his voice cracking like his crystalline surface. Contact Ambassador Collins. Tell her the Council wishes to learn about human warfare. As the message was sent, Zix 427 realized that the Galactic Space Council's greatest defeat hadn't come from Earth's weapons. It had come from their own inability to understand that sometimes the best strategy was having no strategy at all. The age of perfect warfare was over. The era of human chaos had begun. The final battle took place in Jupiter's orbit, where the gas giant's swirling storms matched the chaos of human battle tactics. Commander Peter Walsh stood on the bridge of the flagship Freedom, watching Earth's combined fleet prepare for what they hoped would be the last engagement. "Status report," he called out to his crew. Lieutenant Bradford looked up from her station. "Project Pandora is ready. Captain Martinez's fleet is in position. Random position, of course. And Laura Chen reports that her new chaos algorithms are functioning perfectly." Walsh nodded. The last 3 days had changed everything. Half the Galactic Space Council's fleet had already surrendered, their ship's computers completely overwhelmed by human unpredictability. The other half, led by High Counselor 6427, refused to admit that their perfect system of warfare had failed. "Sir," Bradford said suddenly, "incoming transmission from Ambassador Collins." Mary Collins appeared on the main screen, looking tired but determined. "Commander, the Council is fracturing. 12 more species have requested to learn our military tactics. They're calling it the human way of war. And the Exilarians, still refusing to adapt. Their crystal ships are showing severe stress fractures. Their entire society is built on perfect order. This chaos is literally breaking them." Walsh watched as the enemy fleet appeared from behind Jupiter's largest moon. Their ships still tried to maintain geometric patterns, but the formations were wobbly now, imperfect. Some ships drifted out of position, their crews no longer certain of the old ways. "All ships," Walsh ordered, "begin Operation Final Dance." Earth's fleet burst into action, each ship following its own random pattern. The Chinese vessels moved like ancient dragons, weaving unpredictable paths through space. The Brazilian ships followed carnival dance steps. The Nigerian fleet based their movements on traditional tribal rituals. The alien fleet tried to respond with their usual perfect formation. But this time, something was different. "Sir," Bradford called out, "the alien ships, they're not all following orders. Some are trying to copy our random movements." On the tactical display, Walsh watched the enemy fleet fall into confusion. Ships that tried to maintain formation clashed with those attempting to be unpredictable. Their once perfect geometric patterns collapsed into chaos. "Now," Walsh ordered, "launch the final phase of Project Pandora." Laura Chen's voice came through the command channel. "Launching Chaos Swarm now. Let's show them what real randomness looks like." Thousands of small objects shot out from Earth's ships. Some were weapons. Some were decoys. Some were just empty boxes broadcasting random signals. But mixed among them were Chen's newest creation. Devices that transmitted pure randomness, broadcasting patterns that changed constantly based on everything from quantum fluctuations to old TV static. The alien fleet's sensors tried to track the threats. Their computers attempted to calculate trajectories, predict movements, find patterns where none existed. Ship after ship fell silent as their tactical systems crashed. "Message from High Counselor 6427, Bradford reported. "Audio only." The alien leader's voice crackled through the speakers, broken by static and emotion. This is not warfare. You have corrupted the perfect mathematics of combat. Your chaos spreads like a disease through our fleet." Walsh opened a channel to respond. "War isn't about perfection, Counselor. It's about survival. About adapting. About doing whatever it takes to protect your people. But there must be rules. Order. Perfect formations. The only rule that matters is staying alive." Around them, the battle had become a stark demonstration of this truth. The alien ships that clung to their old patterns were easy targets. Those that dared to break formation, to try new tactics, were surviving. Captain Martinez's voice came through the command net. "Sir, the enemy flagship is making a final push. They're trying to form a perfect attack pattern." "Let them try," Walsh said. "Lieutenant Bradford, show them why that's a mistake." Bradford activated the new defense system they'd prepared. Earth's ships released clouds of metallic dust that sparkled in Jupiter's light. Laser beams shot through the clouds, creating random reflection patterns. The enemy's sensors, trying to track multiple targets through the shifting lights, began to fail. Their flagship, Bradford reported, watching her displays. Its crystal structure is showing critical stress levels. I think their computer is trying to calculate every possible outcome at once. Walsh watched as cracks appeared in the beautiful crystalline surface of the alien flagship. The mighty vessel, symbol of the Council's perfect warfare, was being destroyed not by weapons, but by its own inability to handle chaos. "Sir," Bradford said quietly, "we're receiving surrender signals. Not just from the fleet, from the Council itself." The main screen lit up with multiple transmissions. Council species, one after another, formally surrendering to Earth. Many asked for immediate instruction in human military tactics. Some even requested human officers to teach their crews the human way of war. Only the Silurian flagship remained, its once perfect surface now a web of stress fractures. "Final transmission from High Counselor Zix 427, Bradford announced. The alien leader's image appeared on screen. His crystalline form was barely holding together. "You have broken us," he said. "Not with weapons, but with chaos itself. 10,000 years of perfect warfare, undone by randomness." "Not randomness," Walsh corrected. "Adaptability. Creativity. The courage to break rules when they don't work anymore." The Silurian leader's form cracked further. "The Council surrenders. We submit ourselves to human instruction in warfare. Teach us your chaos." As the transmission ended, Walsh looked out at the battlefield. Earth ships moved in their unpredictable patterns, their random tactics now becoming a template for a new kind of warfare. The rigid formations of the past were gone, replaced by something more flexible, more human. Ambassador Collins appeared on the screen again. "Commander, the Council is requesting immediate peace talks. They want to establish a new doctrine of warfare, one that combines their technology with our tactical flexibility." Walsh nodded. "Tell them we accept. And Mary, make sure the peace treaty isn't too predictable." Around them, the solar system settled into an uneasy peace. The Council's perfect formations were gone forever, replaced by something more chaotic, but also more alive. They had learned the hardest lesson any military force could face, that sometimes the strongest warriors weren't those who followed the rules perfectly, but those who knew when and how to break them. As Earth's fleet regrouped for the journey home, Walsh thought about how this victory would change the galaxy. The Council's rigid perfection had been replaced by human unpredictability. Their mathematical certainty had given way to creative chaos. And somewhere out there, alien officers were already learning about guerrilla warfare, unexpected tactics, and the art of surprise. The galaxy would never be the same. Sometimes, Walsh reflected, the best way to win a war was to change the rules of warfare itself.